Fucking. Hey, welcome everybody. Yeah, I'm super excited to have my first guest on the Cognitive Fitness Coach podcast, and that is JT Frank. So, JT Frank is a proud veteran and first responder, and he started his career with the United States Air Force, and he spent the last 23 years protecting and serving country as a civilian federal employee. Through his extensive time in the military, and as a first responder, he's become intimately familiar with both the positive and negative lifestyles and the habits associated with these career fields. Unfortunately for JT, the negative habits progressively played a larger role in his life. And through trial and error, JT realized that not only do these habits not serve him personally, they are a detriment to the long-term success and mental health of the veteran and first responder community. So without further ado, JT, welcome to the podcast, man. How are you doing?
I'm
For
doing
real.
well. First of all, I gotta say I'm impressed the fact that you're willing to read something on there. Like I have to do my intros beforehand. I would have screwed that up about 30 times before I got that paragraph off out. So first off,
Appreciate it, man.
kudos.
Yeah. So yeah. So how are you doing, man? How are you doing? For real, how are you doing?
For real, for real. I'm doing well. It's probably about 5:05 in the morning. Like I told you before we hit record, um, sleep has been elusive for me, but all in all, man, I'm doing pretty well. I'm stoked to be talking to my friend. It was strange to get a formal invitation from somebody I consider a close friend to be on the podcast, and I almost responded like, "Of course I'll be on your fucking podcast, dude." Like but but I understand we have to go through the formalities. But yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah, I'm just practicing, I'm practicing reaching out to people and doing my social wellness. And yeah, it's still nerve-wracking. I was like, what if he says no? That'd be really weird. So
Yeah,
tell
no,
us, tell us, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying I'm excited. I'm excited to do it.
Yeah, cool. I was just so tell us a little more about yourself. Tell us your if you could, like, give us your origin story. Who is JT Frank? Where do you come from?
All right. So I grew up most of my life in New York, just about an hour outside New York City, in a place called Orange County, New York. I moved while I was in high school. I moved up to the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania. Finished high school there, graduated, and tried college, but failed miserably. I lasted one semester in college, uh, and before I knew it, I was at the recruiters. Went into the United States Air Force. Spent little over 5 years in the Air Force, which is a strange amount of time to spend. Most people, they asked if I got kicked out at that point, but I'd extended a bit. Uh, Finished up my time in the Air Force. I was living out in Sacramento, California, and really from that point on, I really struggled. I kind of self-destructed for a year, like many people do when they first get out of the military. Was really lost. Just went from different job to job in California. It kind of reached kind of rock bottom. Packed all my shit up in my Jeep, drove across the country,
Yeah.
back to the East Coast, and kind of started my life all over again. And got a job. I was a forest ranger. Met my amazing wife, and yeah, yeah, started a job as a first responder, been working kind of in that role in some form of law enforcement ever since then. But yeah, that kind of you tell me when you want me to stop, because we can kind of get into the other parts and how you and I met and
Yeah,
how this
yeah.
whole
Well, I would say maybe back up a little bit to college. Why do you think that you failed out of college? What happened there?
I wasn't you hear the term arrested development. That was 100%
Yeah.
me. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared for college. I struggled. I barely got through high school, Chris. Like I was
Hmm.
uh, fairly. I have ADD pretty bad, and I was diagnosed at a really young age, but not treated at all, and struggled
Mm.
through school, and just not did not have the system, the tools, the support, the people around me, or the self discipline to make that work. And I certainly didn't understand what surrounding yourself with the right people meant. And I was if if you if you could tell somebody like I to say I surround myself with the wrong people is an understatement. I was just in the wrong place, wrong time, didn't have the tools to figure that out, um and just really failed fairly quickly. So
Yeah.
yeah, I barely showed up for class. I worked at a mountain bike shop. I really liked cycling growing up, and just worked at a bike shop. Spent most of my time working at the bike shop, and was school was not my thing at that time.
Yeah, we are like we may have been separated at birth. I think we're like twin brothers or something because I share so much of that in common. Like I love bicycles too. I grew up on bicycles. I used to race BMX and I used to ride mountain bikes and I used to just ride all the time and then also the of course the college thing too. I remember like I tried to go to community college after high school and failed miserably and really was just like so undisciplined and was like no direction. I couldn't believe like no one's like nobody cares if I don't show up to class. Or like no one's even we're not taking attendance. Like you're not going to the principal's office anymore, Chris. Like you're not going to get suspended from college. And but I was so embarrassed that I couldn't tell anyone that I couldn't do college. So I used to leave my house and pretend I was going to college. And I would
Wow.
literally drive. Yeah, dude, it was so bad. I would drive to a cemetery and sit in the cemetery and chill out in the cemetery for hours on end and then drive back. Oh yeah, college is good. It's going great. Yeah, man, totally. So, talk. I want to know a little bit more about your time in the Air Force. How was that? How was being in the Air Force? And I mean, we could just talk about your time in the Air Force a little more. I'm just interested in
Sure.
what you did there.
Uh, I look back at my time in Air Force. I mean, first of all, it saved me, and this might you might I don't know about your feelings about the Navy, but for me, uh, going back to this whole being ADD thing, I do well when there's structure, and I'm especially if I don't have much choice in it. Yeah, I used to look back at that and not be happy about that about myself and say I don't have enough self discipline or whatever. But uh, the reality is I do well in structure when I'm expected to be someplace. Going back to what you're saying, even about college,
Mhm.
uh, and it was good for me. I really I enjoyed it. I started off I was security. Well, this is showing my age. I was security police. It's now security forces. My
Mm.
first assignment, I tell people, and they cringe. I was in Minot Air Force Base. Garden missile silos out in the middle
Yeah.
of freaking nowhere. But I still it was it I had so much fun doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
the job was whatever, but um, it was the first time that I realized like I started working out a lot, and
Mm.
I was getting selected to travel to different bases to compete in like a obstacle course and shooting competitions and
Wicked.
tactic stuff. And yeah, man. And so that was always cool because I would leave Minot to go to California to do these competitions in like early spring, which North Dakota, it's miserable in the winter. Like
Mm.
it's like cold I'd never known before. So that was always I really enjoyed that. Um, I went from there to Incirlik Air Force Base in Turkey, and that was an amazing experience. Now we're talking pre 9/11, right? So,
Mhm.
I mean, I traveled all over the country. Like
Mhm.
I one of my friends there he'd been stationed there for like 8 years, was married to a local, and we would just go look at historical sites all around the country, and it was an amazing time. And then I finished up out in California. I was out in McClellan, which is since closed right as I was getting out,
Mm.
and it was great too. I mean, I enjoyed my time. The only problem with it tricked me into thinking I had my shit figured out. Like it tricked me that
Mm.
discipline. it tricked me into thinking like, oh man, I got this licked. Like
Yeah.
I can control myself. I'm excelling. I'm doing really well. And then that carpet was kind of pulled out from under me the second nobody was looking for me anymore, expecting me to be someplace.
Mm.
And then you know, things went kind of downhill from that point on.
Yeah, let's talk about that downhill. So you got out and
Yeah.
then you said you were quite lost and like what was that time like? What were those experiences like for you?
You know, I look back at those and I don't even there was zero thought that went into any decision making. Like most people, you get out and you go through these classes and they tell you, you know, have your stuff, planned out what you're going to do. And I didn't do any of that. I mean, I literally just got out. I didn't really have a place to stay. I ended up staying with a friend, and it's somebody I'm still close with, and matter of fact, a big supporter of Consequence of Habit. Um, he'll probably listen to this, so thanks, Ernie. So I was living in his townhouse. He was pretty squared away, and he'd gotten out, and he'd like saved his money, and he bought a house, a townhouse, and
Mm.
or duplex. And he actually bought a duplex, and the whole thing, both units. And I would bounce around from job to job. Like I had a job. I was a landscaper only because I happened to be standing near a landscaping truck, and a woman confused me for someone who knew how to landscape and asked me to come to give a quote at her house for a new yard. I was at
Wow.
a Home Depot. Yeah, so I went back into the Home Depot and bought a book on laying sod, and showed up at her house.
That's
And
great,
gave
man.
her, yeah. I worked at a nutritional supplement distribution company, which is a whole other insane story. I did construction, I did ceramic tiling for a while. So yeah, it was zero direction. I actually had a job with the Department of Energy. I mean, pretty much handed to me. But
Wow.
this was how ignorant I was. I said, well, it's guarding, you know, high priority uh, assets for the U.S. government, and I said, wow, I already did that in the military, so I'm not going to do that now. And next thing I know, I'm laying ceramic tile for like minimum wage.
Yeah. You're like, man, maybe I should have taken that job guarding the nuclear power
Yeah,
plant down the road, with health
exactly.
benefits and everything else, dental,
Well,
401k.
right. So yeah, honestly, it wasn't until I'd been out there for about a year, and I was really, really suffering, but didn't, you don't always realize that you're suffering in the
Mm.
moment. And
Hmm.
again, without the realization or the awareness that you're surrounding yourself with people that are dragging you down. And
Mm.
I came home I came home for a wedding. It was an old friend who was getting married, and someone had bought my ticket for me. And I
Mm.
flew back for a wedding in Annapolis, Maryland. And I was around people like that love me, and we're good people, and we're doing a lot of the right things in life. And I was like, that's it. That was all. That's what I needed. That was like one of those kind of gifts in life. And I flew back to California. I sold pretty much everything I had to a local pawn shop, and anyone like. I mean, I've told you this before, Chris, but I sold the batteries to my Jeep. Like everything I could sell, I
Mm.
sold, and then packed my shit up with my dog and drove across the country. And
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Wow.
I was
So
that.
do you feel as though like that time in your life was one of the hardest challenges that you overcame, or is that nothing compared to what happened, say, I don't know, 10, 15 years later and how we ended up eventually meeting or
Um, it would probably be I'd say personally, that was when I look back, it's so maybe I'll put these in. I don't even know if this is going to make sense, but
yeah.
so just personally, my actions were hurting me, right? Like
Mm.
I was dragging myself down. Later on in life, you know, my
Mhm.
actions probably hurt more people around me and people I love, so that's got a whole other feeling to it. But
Mhm.
the actual I look back at that my time and I feel lucky because things could have gone way worse than they did. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like that's I they're where I eked left instead of right, and my life could have been way different. So
mhm.
yeah, yeah. So
So from
that would probably be one of these ones.
Yeah, I would say from that time, and I don't know, I don't know the timeline, but I imagine we would fast forward about 10, 15 years, and you decide to sober up, right? Because you come to realize you
Yeah.
had an alcohol use disorder.
Yep.
Um, so you want to talk about that and how that came to be and what that has generated in your life so far. And congratulations on 4 years sober. I know you just came up on 4 years. So great
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. Thank you. Sure. Yeah. So there's in it's growing up in life. There's levels, right?
Yeah.
And so I leave California where I was a level 7 or 8 at that point of screwing things up, and I came back to the East Coast, and I got a lot of my stuff together. And like I said, that was with the support of my now wife and structure and back in these positions, these jobs where I was held to a standard.
Mm,
Uh, but one constant, and that was I still drank. And when I say I drank, I drank pretty much every day. And
mm-hmm,
that wasn't, I tell people that they're like, oh, wow. I said, well, listen, I didn't drink. You probably wouldn't even know it.
mm,
We would have a conversation and, uh, you know, anyone who's been around a lot of people that drink, there's different kinds of drinkers. There's drinkers that drink until the wheels fall off. And there's people that just drink to escape on a regular basis. Or some people just, binge drink and on just the weekends. So I was your everyday drinker. I
mm,
drink too much, but it wasn't to the one where, I was slurring. And I don't say that with pride. Uh, this sounds probably crazy, but even when I was sobering up, like if I was at a meeting or something, I'd be like, God, I wasn't even a real drinker. Like I would kind of half-ass
mm.
that too. Like, I don't even know if I'm even supposed to be here. And then the more you
Right.
talk about, the more you get it out, your mind is like, no, I'm right where I belong. That's
Yeah.
exactly
What
what.
a Yeah,
Um,
quite the thing when you're in recovery. I relate to what you're saying. Like it's probably the only place where you can come in and it's a badge of honor about how badly you screwed up your life. People are like, oh wow, this guy really screwed up his life and he made it
yeah,
back. You know,
yeah,
it's probably
right,
a place
yeah.
in the world where that's a badge of honor.
But the reasons for getting sober, it was causing. It wasn't even the. It wasn't even just the alcohol, but along with alcohol comes decision making and
Mm,
uh, you just I got to a point in my life where I was hurting people around me, the ones I love the absolute most. Now
mm,
I grew up from with a family of drinkers on both sides. It's just it runs deep in it's a generational thing.
mm.
I mean, I watched my grandfather take his last breath because of alcohol. Literally, he had
Damn.
cirrhosis of the liver, and it was just him and I in a room. And
Mm,
so I've known the what that's done to our family
mm,
and so for me to kind of continue this and then show my kids like, hey, this is what adults do. That
mm.
on top of just that poor decision making and um, there was a lot of things like it just kept building and building and building and I could only compartmentalize and push that shit down for so long.
Right.
And someone someone there was a counselor that I was seeing and they she kind of was great about just kind of bringing it up, like you're not pushing it down my throat, but like, have you thought about this? Like maybe
Mhm.
you might want to look. might want to look
Right.
into
You might want to look
this.
into this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're talking about meditation or doing whatever, but you've got this thing you might want to
Right.
look into. So yeah, that so there was that process of like, I think one of the scariest things for people when they know that there's been a problem,
Mm.
um, and then actually putting it out there to everyone else, like actually expressing this thing that you've known is a problem for a long time, is like, oh, well, you just put it now the line, you put a line in the sand. Now, um, if you don't do something about it, then
Yeah.
then like now you're just being um you're not taking care of yourself. You're not doing the things that need to be done. There is no more denying it. Where like, I don't know, I'm fine. I'm okay. No,
Right.
you've put out there to the world, I'm not fine.
Yeah. And I
Yes.
think once you tell folks that you're not fine, and then on top of that, to say that you're doing something about it, now you're holding yourself to that standard, and you may be held accountable later on. I'm because I too share that the same affliction. I'm in recovery from an alcohol use disorder now almost 16 years, and I remember
Right.
when I remember when I told people that I was sobering up, like that was scary to me because I was like, oh, geez. So the more people I tell, the more people somewhere down the road that may see me take a drink again, and then it's going to be uncomfortable. So I didn't want to tell folks that I was going to stop. Like I was hesitant at first, but once I did, I knew there's no going back now, and thankfully that's been the case so far.
Yeah, especially to my kids.
Hmm.
To say that to your kids, like I was going to meetings and I didn't want to I didn't tell my kids about that, right? Now, so at the time, my oldest 40, so she would have been in college. And then I had another one who was just maybe starting high school, getting ready to start high school. Excuse me, my
Hmm.
little guy. So I didn't, I was going to meetings, but I didn't want them to know that, with a huge part of that being, if I went back,
Yeah.
if I couldn't do this, like,
Hmm.
oof, like that one would really, there was already enough shame in the fact that
Right.
I was repeating some of the same things that I
Hmm.
was taught, which I knew. I remember, as a kid knowing like this, maybe that's kind of fucked up. Like the amount of alcohol people are always drinking around me, and
Right.
then repeating the same thing, and then saying I had a problem, and then continuing to do it in front of them. That scared the living crap out of me. So that
Right.
was a big step to kind of come forward with all that and put it out there.
Yeah, and so from that from that sobering up and developing the habit of not drinking anymore, um what has that sparked in your life? What has come of that? Like I know you said consequence of
Yeah,
habits, so folks might be interested in what that's all about.
yeah. So I got sober a little bit before COVID, and yeah, so I got sober at a really interesting time too, because I'd started podcasting. I was hosting a podcast, or I was a co-host of a podcast for a
Hmm.
company called Killcliff, and Killcliff is like an energy drink company. They have a CBD drink, and they were fairly big in the CrossFit world. They still are. I mean, listen, Joe Rogan's got his own Killcliff flavor. Like they're really kind of taking over some of the MMA world.
Mm.
Uh, but that environment too was, there was a lot of alcohol in it, so it was a strange time. Like literally they flew us down to North Carolina to be on the Drinking Bros podcast, and I think I was probably about 4 or 5 months sober at the time. So um it- for COVID hits, the Kill Cliff podcast, I don't know if it was, if it was because of COVID, but for whatever reason that just goes away, right? Like
Mm.
there's no more contact with these guys. So I was left not working very much. I mean, I'm a federal employee, but because of COVID, like a lot of people,
Hmm.
and I just I just had all this podcast equipment and I just started talking about, I got really intrigued with the thought around habits. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when I drank every day, these things happen. When I don't drink, these things happen, these
Mm-hmm.
positive things. And I was like, well, there's got to be a lot of other things in life that are the same way. Like this alcohol thing was this thing that weighed me down. Let's talk about that, and let's talk about other things, just habit wise, because the more you look into habits, the more you realize we have in common. They may not be alcohol; they could be a lot of different things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just kind of the human condition, right? That we try and escape um, our own minds, our own lives, or whatever for these small periods of time to feel good, but without maybe realizing that overall they make you feel really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I started talking about that, and that turned into a podcast, another podcast. I started inviting on people like you've been on the podcast.
Yeah.
Uh, I've we're over 100 episodes in now. I've had an amazing guests, and throughout talking to all these people, I said, hey, can we do something more than just have a podcast? Because
Yeah.
as great as that is, I want there to actually be something more, like where people can go or listen or actually do something instead of just
Mm-hmm.
taking stuff in. They can participate in a workshop or something, and that was the idea where Consequence of Habit as a nonprofit started.
Yeah.
And oof, that was a couple years ago, man. And
Yeah.
I love the story how you even got involved in Consequence of Habit too. And
Yeah, I just didn't leave. Yeah, I
was
was a guest on your podcast, and then I remember at the end we had a conversation, and if memory serves me correct, I think you asked me about coming on to the nonprofit, and I think I declined you the first time. I don't know why, but I was just like, I got enough crap going on, like I don't need anything else. And then I mulled over that conversation like over a couple weeks, and then I was like, you know what, you're a fool. Like I knew that like what you had going on was a good thing, and I think it's only going to get bigger and better, and I'm stoked to be part of that nonprofit. So if y'all are listening again, that's the name of its Consequence of Habit, and it's a nonprofit now and a podcast. And I'll let you take from there. What have you been up to? What have you been up to in the last couple of years with it?
well, first of all, Chris, I've I've said this to you before, but Consequence of Habit is just as much yours as mine because you've been just such a huge, and I mean that huge part of it.
Mm,
Um, so it's grown. We had a couple workshops last year where we had retired Navy SEAL John McCaskill and Dr. Teresa Larson came out to Dover Air Force Base and
yeah.
did a mindfulness meditation functional movement workshop for veterans and first responders. We did a Wim Hof workshop in New Jersey where we opened that up to veterans and first responders. We are not a veteran and first responder specific nonprofit, but those are
Mm-hmm.
communities that we're both passionate about, and we like to serve. We've got some workshops coming up this year. We're still putting some on the calendar, but also we started an ambassador program where we put out this thing to the world like, hey, if you want to represent Consequence of Habit, send us an application.
Mm,
We had some questions on there, and I think I can speak for us both. We were blown away with the people that
yeah.
have applied to that, and I mean, I'm amazed daily by seeing what these people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the flag of Consequence of Habit. They're literally living our mission. And the mission is to empower individuals in the community by bringing awareness to the impact habits have on our mental health, success, and the environment.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's what we're doing. We've got the podcast, we've got the ambassador program, we've got the workshops, and we're just taking it from there.
Yeah. It's very cool, man. And I share your awe of the ambassador program. I mean, wow, what a rock star team we have assembled. Absolutely amazing. And these are folks that have touched both sides of the spectrum of habits, from the bad to the better. Very cool. So you mentioned in the in the mission statement of Consequence of Habit nonprofit, of bringing awareness to the impact that habits have on our mental health. If you don't mind, I'd like to talk a little bit about mental health. It's kind of my thing, you know. I'm a cognitive fitness coach here, and I think mental health is health. And I would like to ask you, like, what does mental health mean to you?
Oof. Yeah. Uh that's a good question. So
Thanks.
I this is this is probably a terrible explanation of, but to me, I'll say mental health is is how I feel
Mm-hmm.
when nothing else is distracting me.
Mm,
When it's how I feel about myself when it's just me and I don't have something else that is taking my attention away, and I have to just sit there in my own head and how I feel about myself. Does that make sense to you?
yeah, I mean, it just sounds like to be mentally healthy in your definition really sounds like moments of clarity and moments of mindfulness where you're not being pulled and all these different directions. No, I mean, there's no wrong or right answers here, right? That was just a what does it
Yeah.
mean to you?
Yeah.
Um,
And it's not even being pulled. Um it it's seeking for something to pull me away from
uh,
myself. You know what I mean? Like,
okay. Yeah. No, I do. I know exactly what you mean. And that's like um yeah, it's just like maybe not being comfortable in your own skin or your own thoughts, and then just like seeking to be pulled. Like, does that make
yeah,
sense? Like, it's almost like Tara Brock, who's one of my favorite meditation teachers, and I met her once in Washington D.C. I'm a big like fanboy of her. I was like fawning over her, but anyway, Tara Brock, check her out sometime. But she said, like, in one of her talks, like she said that, you know, there's a moment when you have a desire to do something like pick up your cell phone. And she's like, she's not telling anyone to like, hey, don't pick up your cell phone. But she's saying, if you could just pause for a second and ask yourself, what's going on? Why
yeah,
am I being drawn to that? Why am I being drawn to that distraction? Is there something there that I'm not working through that I need to be working through? So yeah, it makes sense
yeah.
to me.
I
Totally.
I literally, Chris, like people ask me, hey, do you still like is not drinking still hard? And I go, I
Mm,
don't really think about it very much, but I had a somewhat stressful day yesterday. I mean, nothing crazy, but just a long day. And I had a lot of stuff. I was in my car after work, and I still had a lot of stuff. I was coming home to do taxes, right? So
mm,
that's what my mindset when I get in my car. And there was a moment, not that I wanted to drink, but I recognized the feeling of wanting to get home and escape just a
mm-hmm,
little bit, just
mm-hmm,
so that, and I'll acknowledge that, like, no, I mean, yes, it's still hard to not drink. It's nothing compared to what it was,
right.
and I'm never in the danger of going, hey, yes, I'm going to go back to this, but it would be stupid to not at least recognize that yes, this is a time where I would look forward to it, and I
Mm-hmm.
and I recognize the feeling, very much so. So
Yeah, I think we live in a distraction epidemic, right? Like there's just so much distractions out there to pull us away from the present moment through whether it's social media or emails or the bells and whistles that are constantly going off or whatever it may be. Um, it's hard to remain mindful and present and in the moment. I know, I can think of a study that was done, I believe it was in 2011, that stated that 49% of the time our minds are wandering on average, and that's pretty much the default mode network of the mind, and the mind is to wander. So they did some study where they sent people messages on all things on like iPhones, right? So and they asked them like, hey, what are you doing? What are you thinking about, and are you happy? And then basically the result of that study come to say that, hey, a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. And it's like when we wander, I know I should speak let me put it in I statements. When I wander, I sometimes wander into the future where there's anxiety, or I wander into the past where there's regret. So I'm a big fan of countering that by trying to remain mindful and in the moment as much as possible. And if I find my mind wandering, I like to do a visualization of like a stop sign, like, hey, stop, and then take 3 breaths, observe what I'm feeling in my body, and then proceed mindfully. And also, like, it's nothing wrong with thinking of the future. I mean, we obviously, it's like, even if I said, like, I'm going to never think of the future again, like, that's a bunch of bullshit, right? I'm going to be thinking of the future, but perhaps it'd be more helpful to think of the future and visualize things working out the way I want them to, and the way I successfully. And because I think some of that too can become like a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know?
Yeah.
If you're always like, it's going to go to shit, it's going to go to shit, it's going to go to shit. And then when it comes time to execute, all that negative energy, it may indeed go to shit. So, and then same with the past. Like I like when we think of our past and the things that we regret doing and so on and so forth, it's like all that stuff led us up to like where we are today and what we're doing right now, right here. Like if it wasn't for for you and I, I'll speak for myself. If it wasn't for me, like royally screwing up my life, I never would have got sober, and I never would have recovered, and I never would be doing the things I'm doing today. So unfortunately, I hurt some people I loved along the way, and that sucks. But we learn the lessons and we take them as life lessons and not life sentences. But I feel like I'm talking too much now. So let me see.
No, 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 no. There's a couple of things I want to unpack there because I was
Yeah.
you mentioned like even thinking about the future and if you think about shit just falling apart, a lot of times that can actually happen. And I was thinking about that. I was going mountain biking with my son, and he's 14. He's great on a bike. He always has been, right? But I was explaining as we go through the trails that if there's things you don't want to hit, roots and rocks, don't look at them. You look at the path that you want to go on, because
Yeah.
that's your bike. The bike will naturally go that. But if you stare at the root or the rock, you're
Yeah.
more likely to steer into it and just hit it. And and I had this split moment of like, God, that's kind of like life, right? Like,
That's awesome. Yeah.
yeah. Um,
That's really good
and,
insight, man. And it's so funny is that I had that same exact conversation with my daughter. She's right behind this wall. Um, just yesterday when she was riding her bicycle, because she was looking
that's
at a
funny.
barbed wire fence and she almost went into the barbed wire fence. So yeah, it's true. Like a tractor beam, if we just look towards it, like we get sucked into it. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's something that we're talking about both you and I having a similar past is there's and I think one of the reasons I think we're passionate about the military and the first responder and it is that there's this idea of like you did some really amazing things in your time in the Navy, right? And there's
Hmm.
probably a lot of people that look to you like, Chris has got his shit together. Like he's doing some hardcore, some badass stuff.
Right.
But there's two sides to that, right? Like we have this thing, this image that we put out to the world, and some of that is true. And
Hmm.
then there's this other side that we don't see. It's almost like social media. You just put out this one,
My
you
highlight
know,
reel, yeah. You put out the highlight reel
yeah,
on social media. But I think you're absolutely correct. So like what you're getting at, I think what you're getting at is like what we may have talked about in the past, and we may have talked about on the podcast and consequence of habit, but it's like you see a rack full of ribbons on a service member and you see all these accomplishments and all this stuff and you think this guy's got all his poop in a group, but the reality is like, no, I have to do all this stuff because I think I'm the biggest piece of crap in the world and I'm trying for validation and making up for something. So, and it was
yes,
like a conversation we had before we hit record on the podcast is like, why are we doing what we do today? What are we doing this for? Do we want this super popular podcast because we want to put out the good word into the world, or is it some ego? Are we looking for validation? Like why are we doing all this? So it's an interesting conversation to have. I'd
yeah.
like to think I'm doing it for the well-being of whoever's listening, but maybe I'm just doing it for likes, comments, and shares. I don't know. Follows,
I,
how many
I,
followers I have.
definitely intersect somewhere. and I've had somebody ask me this. They, they said, listen, why can't you just be sober, live like you're the mission of consequence of habit, and you don't have to put it out to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they're absolutely right. And I've gone back and forth with it. Like, what is that need? What? And it probably goes back to the same thing of like, why do all this extra stuff, Chris? Like, why did you do the things Navy? You could have just been a regular guy in the Navy and just gone
Yeah.
about your business. But I think I say there's a moral responsibility sometimes to share that word, because things have, like, my whole life has gotten a lot better, right? And
Right.
and that's the part I like to think, but to say that there's not an ego side to it,
Mm.
that runs parallel, that can't be true.
Yeah.
There has to be part of that, and that's okay, man. I try and
Yeah.
accept that. Like, um, we all are given gifts. Not to say
Yeah.
that like podcasting is my gift, but maybe
You're pretty good at
communicating.
it. You're pretty damn good at it.
Thanks, dude. But just maybe communicating and talking. Uh,
Yeah.
hey, I'm good at yapping, which I don't even know if that's a good thing. People say, "Man, you're really good at talking." I'm like, is that a compliment? I'd say
Right.
that
Right.
feels kind of
You know,
dirty. You're good.
it's interesting that now you like framed it like that with me of like, oh, well, why did you do all that hardcore stuff in the Navy? I could have just, turned wrenches and worked, whatever jobs, which was not saying those aren't amazing feats, but you're right. I pushed as hard as I could to get to this elite level. And I'm like, and people wondered why I did that. And I said, because I knew I could. And that's why
Mm.
maybe that's why I'm doing this, because I know I can. And I know that I think I'm good at it. I'm passionate about it. I think the world needs to hear these conversations. So I think that's why I'm doing it. we'll, we'll
But
come back to this conversation someday. Be like, nope, no, he wasn't.
it's all ego.
It
Look
was
at me.
all
Look
ego.
at
He's
me.
full of shit the whole time.
but, but what I appreciate about you doing what you're doing, and because I relate to it, is we're both first to say, like, we don't have this shit figured out. We're trying. Like, you're going to see the process in real time, and we're going to screw up. And you and I both had conversations with each other. We're like, obviously not on camera. We're like, hey man, I'm struggling right now. Like,
Right.
or we both have this thing called consequence of habit, but like our screen time because of social media has sucked in the past couple months, or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's, and I could be wrong, but I think there's power in that, talking about that stuff, putting it out to the world, because most of the world, in my experience, is fucking struggling right now. Like, there's a
Oh yeah.
huge
Yeah.
portion of us that are truly struggling. And when I hear people that have it all figured out, or at least it sounds like they do, I don't relate to them as much. Maybe they inspire me a little bit, but that almost seems like another species. And
Right.
I, you get a lot more buy-in from me when someone says like, "Hey, I'm trying to do the right thing, but it's been really hard, and I'm struggling a little bit right now." I'm like, "Oh man, I get that. I could
Right.
100% get that." But
Right.
at the same time, then this is a whole other can of worms. Then we'll get the imposter syndrome. Like, dude, how do you have a nonprofit called Consequence of Habit, but you've been on Instagram for 4 hours today? Like, what the fuck?
Right. On marketing. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
doing research and marketing. Yeah, no,
Just drinking wine while.
right. Yeah, no, I hear you what you're saying there totally. And yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I've had people say that to me, and I felt that myself too. Like, how can you call yourself a cognitive fitness coach when you have general anxiety disorder and major depressive disorder? It's like, well, no, I have that type of stuff. I still struggle every now and again. I have my good days and my bad days, but I definitely have more good days today than I have bad days. That's for
Um,
sure. But I've had people say that to me of like, Like, how can you be doing what you're doing? Is A, they're like, I know where you come from. Like, they wanted to hold that against me. I was like, yeah, guess what? I've done about 20 podcasts. Everyone knows where I come from. They know my past. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I've been through it. I know exactly. But then I had a person kind of say, like, no, but I know you. I know you the way you are today. Like, and I'm like, dude, I'm not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes, man. Like, I'm a 100% human being. I'm flawed. I'm fallible, but I'm definitely doing better than I was. And I think I have some talent and some tools and some knowledge today that I can pass on and help other people. So, and I believe the same with you. Um, so let's talk about that if you don't mind. Like, when it comes to health and particularly mental health, do you have any like resources that you use? Like, what type of wellness practices are you doing to help yourself?
So one thing I've been much better about recently is one. This goes back to I need structure. I need structure. Structure has to be part of my life. I've run the experiment way too many times, and I know what the results are when I don't have it. So, uh, exercise has to be part of it. You know, if I don't exercise, it's not 1 or 2 days, but after a couple days, I start getting, I start stirring, I start getting anxious, I get grumpy. Um, Wim Hof breath has been a big part of it. I actually have a funny story about that in a sec, but that was something I actually started before I got sober.
Oh boy.
And I look back, it's kind of comical because I would meditate. I would do
Mm-hmm.
Wim Hof. And Wim Hof to me is a form of meditation, but just a different kind. But I would do all these other, and I was probably just as fit, if not more fit, when I was drinking, which is ironic too. But uh, so physical fitness, meditation, and I have to listen to people that are smarter than I am in this world of mental health. So I'm constantly listening to books or podcasts, or because if I don't, man, a lot of times time will go by and I'll realize, like, you talk about that moment of like, I just go back to driving.
Mm.
That moment where, like, this motherfucker's going to cut me off, or this is going to happen, and then I find myself on the gas instead of just backing off. And I was just listening to something the other day, and they were talking about the exact same thing. And when I'm constantly reminded of these things by other people, and I don't let my own insanity in my head kind of swirl around for too long, then those little gaps open up, and I can see. You can almost look down on yourself for a second and go, um, dude, you are becoming the same as that person, right? Like,
Mm.
you're attracting the person that's in the same mindset as you, and that's
Mm.
where I can find those little gaps, and hopefully in the right world react the right way, and just
Yeah. It reminds me of Viktor
um
Frankl talking about between stimulus and response. There's a gap in
yes,
there, and that's where
yes,
our growth and everything can happen. And I really I liked what I read. I believe it was from your one of your recent podcast guests, Adam Snook, right?
yeah,
Talking
yep,
about
yep,
winning the moments over winning the day.
yes.
And I was like, man, that's huge. Like, to break down things into little bite-sized chunks and to be just mindful of your moments and to win the next moment after the next moment and the next moment and just trying to do the next right thing. That's awesome.
Yeah, so those are probably that's my norm. I start my day usually at 5 in the morning. I get some type of workout in, usually at least minimum 30 minutes, but or usually between 30 minutes and an hour. um, and then, excuse me, sometime throughout the day, I'll do some breath work. And,
Mm.
but the problem, not the problem, but one of the challenges with the Wim Hof, and if anyone who doesn't, I've heard you just spoke about it recently, so
Mhm.
it's going to be like 30 deep breaths, almost like a hyperventilation, like all the way in and all the way out.
Mhm.
On the last breath, you are breathing your air out, and then you're holding, and you would hold your breath for however long, say a minute to 2 minutes. I heard you got over 2 minutes the other day, which is impressive.
Yeah.
um and then you do multiple rounds of that. And I find it very relaxing, especially when I'm outside. If I'm hiking and I stop somewhere, but you sound insane, right? Like people come by like,
Yeah, people are calling 911. Hey, we got a guy. He's hyperventilating. His eyes are closed. He's foaming at the mouth a little.
so I was hiking with my wife, um and Wim Hof's got me embarrassed me a couple times the past week, and so I'm sitting with her, and I'm thinking I'm doing my breath thing like on the down low, right? So I'm just kind of breathing, and I'm thinking I'm being quiet. She goes, "Stop breathing like that." She goes, "It's weird." When she wasn't, I'm like, I thought I was doing a quiet. She's like, "No, I can just hear you like hyperventilating." And then the second time, so my family all knows. I'll come down to my basement and I'll just do it there, and so they can, they can hear me upstairs. Like, Dad's downstairs doing that fucking crazy breath thing. And my daughter's boyfriend came over. And no one told me. No one
No.
told me. So I was down there like breathing away, and my wife texted me, this guy, her boyfriend's here. I'm like, oh God. I walk upstairs and he's looking at me like, what the fuck were you just doing down there?
Warm it up for you, pal. Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, I've been enjoying breath practices myself, and I'm right there with you. I like a structure in the morning. I'm also I accept the fact that my practices may plateau and then I switch things up. Like
Yeah.
it has to, like I was, and I'm still big into meditation. Obviously, I'm a meditation teacher, so I do lots of meditation. But boy, I'm really onto this breathwork thing. I really love it, and I'm loving the cold showers right afterwards. And I'm the same way. I get up, I get out of bed, I make my bed, I make coffee, I do my gratitude journal, I do breath work, and I take a shower. And that's like my thing. Like I have boom, 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 boom. I mean, I don't think I'm obsessive compulsive disorder. And if I was, that'd be okay. Nothing wrong with it. But I just need that structure as well. So I really relate to what you're saying there.
I just got my first like true organizer too, and so
Mhm.
every day I've been starting off with that, and it's got a spot for like workout breath, like you put these little bubbles in, and
Yeah.
and it feels, dude. I Part of me always goes back to even getting sober, and this is thinking about the past, and I know it's not healthy, but going, I've accomplished a lot since I got sober, like a
Mhm.
lot of really good things. If I had done that 20 years before I did,
Right.
but that's pointless. But and I'm even now, like I'm just a couple weeks into using this organizer. I'm like, dude, my life is like I'm actually getting shit done that I used to. Oh, I would never even think about getting done. Why the hell haven't I been doing this my entire life? But
Right.
um, I mean, that's life.
Yep. But you didn't. So here you are now. Let's go. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, cool, man. So, I think we're kind of getting towards the end of I don't know how long we've been on this thing, almost coming up on an hour, but let me just throw some
Wow,
questions
that's
at you.
quick.
So, what's on your nightstand right now?
Okay, good. So what I've got a book. Um, I've got a couple books on there right now. I've been really into Johann Hari. Uh,
Okay.
he's a he's got a couple great books. One called Chasing the Scream. It's about
Mm-hmm.
addiction. A Stolen Focus is another one I just finished, and I can't recommend. I mean that book's just it's blown my mind. I think it's amazing. It really, when we talk about this world of distraction, I think he does a really great job on laying the issues out about distraction and what it's doing to us as a society,
Mm.
and some ways to help mitigate that. Like that's the important thing. Like we all know it, but what do you do about it? Um, so those are probably the two books I have out right now,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, that's it. I mean, I wish I did read more.
Cool.
I listen to a lot. I don't know if that's the best way to take in books, but I've got a bit of a commute, so it's what I do, man. Listen to
Yeah, I
books,
do the
listen to podcasts.
same. I listen to audiobooks whenever I drop my daughter off in the morning at school, and just audiobooks for about the 20-minute ride home. But yeah,
Mm.
Johann Hari, I read Chasing the Scream, but I haven't read Stolen Focus yet. I'll have to get into that. I think he also has a book out about depression that I would like to check out.
Halfway through it. I'm halfway
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah.
Um,
Cool.
Something purpose. Yeah, that's another really good one, and kind of looks at the why anxiety and depression are so prevalent, and maybe some of our ways of dealing with that through medication. Maybe there's other options like, oh, I don't know, meditation or something
Yeah,
else.
yeah. Well, I was just yeah, so really cool is I just talked about that there's a study that came out from I believe the University of Western Australia just recently. Now it's just one study, but still it said that that exercise was found to be 1.5 times as effective as counseling and medication for depression. And then
Huh.
I also have another study that talks about they put medication for anxiety side by side with mindfulness based stress reduction course, and the results were about the same. So,
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure that meditation probably has less side effects than medication, and I don't want
yeah,
anyone to I don't want anyone to like think that I'm saying don't take your medication or something like that. Like, listen to your doctors, take your medication, and if you're on medication, there's no shame in that game, right? I'm not This is not a shameful statement or anything. It's just that I think there's other ways of doing things, that I know have worked for me, like you were saying, exercise, meditation, breath work, uh, getting out in nature. Whoops. That was my alarm telling me to take the trash out. See, I need these reminders in my life.
good.
It's, th- it's Thursday evening here in Thailand. But yeah, cool, man. Well, let me throw another question at you.
Sure, sure.
Let's see. If you had a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically speaking, getting a message out to millions or possibly even billions, like this podcast will do, um, what would it say and why? And it can be a quote from somebody famous. That's a pretty deep question, huh?
You know what? I think I'm going to go with what I'm going to go with what's on our Fuel Hunt T-shirt, and Fuel Hunt is a company that's really backed us as a nonprofit, and they made up a T-shirt that we're literally seeing, just running into people wearing it, like people who don't know, which is
Mm,
mind-boggling, and that is uh starve your distraction. No, no, I'm sorry, I'm going to mess this up. You're going to have to edit this part. Feed your focus, starve distraction.
yeah, you
Uh,
got it.
so yeah, I mean this idea of really looking into the things that are important to you, doing like some deep thought around them, and then trying to starve the million different things that are trying to pull you away from those. Like, our attention has become a commodity. I mean, it always has been, but now through technology, it's way more than we ever could have thought about it as kids.
Mm,
And if you are not at least aware of that and doing something to mitigate it, then uh, we just all become a puppet to these tech companies at some point. So
right. Good stuff. Good stuff, JT. So, where can listeners find out more information about JT Frank and Consequence of Habit and what you're up to?
you can find the podcast, Consequence of Habit, on any of wherever you get your podcast from. If you want to find out more about us as an organization, where you can find even more about Chris as a board member, head on over to consequenceofhabit.org, where you'll see not only where each podcast and the guests that are on, but upcoming events, and maybe what some of our ambassadors are doing, or just anything about the organization.
Awesome. Awesome, brother. I appreciate you coming on, man. It was good
I
seeing
appreciate
you
it.
and great conversation.
Yeah, man, I enjoyed it. Thanks.
All right, man. Later.